I'm Leah. I was diagnosed with PCOS and I am 1 in 10. So before my diagnosis, I had mentioned to the doctor some of my symptoms, and so of course PCOS was one of the few things that he mentioned could be a reason behind what I was seeing, but not until my diagnosis did I know for sure that I had PCOS. Initially, when I was diagnosed, I wasn't too concerned about it. I was much younger and I had a good support system. For me, it didn't seem like something that would affect my life a lot, and so it was just a doctor, telling me what he thought I would face and what he thought I could do. And then I just went home and said I'll try some of those things. So initially I didn't have a big reaction, and for me it was almost so simple as any type of cold or cough. That's how I was looking at it. When I started seeing symptoms and got diagnosed, I was around 14, 15, so I was much younger. At the time, I was having hirsutism, I was having my missed periods, heavy weight gain at the time as well, and my B12 levels were low, so I had low energy. So that was pretty crucial around that age, because those were things that were affecting just my everyday, and those are things that I couldn't pinpoint what was causing it. On a day-to-day basis, my symptoms vary. So because I've had PCOS for about 10 years now and I've worked to treat it, I've had different symptoms at different points. So, when I've had low B12 levels, that affected my energy. If I had enough energy to do schoolwork, to do my extracurriculars, just to do everyday tasks, felt like a lot on me. There were other things that were pretty just front facing. So, you have body image issues on a daily basis when you're much younger, and it takes a lot to build up your confidence when you're dealing with something that you can't control. It also affects a lot of your eating habits. I think that that's something that probably for the 10 years I've always struggled with and will always be dealing with, is that everything that you intake in your body, you overthink it and you wonder if it's gonna affect your body well or if it's not. And so that's something that I struggle with on a day-to-day. And you want to let go sometimes, and sometimes you want to, have things that aren't recommended, but you have to weigh the pros and the cons. Another thing that's probably affected me is just my daily activity. If I have the energy to work out, if I want to work on my body, if I want to, do yoga or do something high intensity, what can I put into my body at that time, and how much energy do I have to give back to my body? So I actually wouldn't pinpoint one symptom that I struggle with the most, because I actually think that when you have PCOS, a lot of the things that happen with your body, you're not sure if this is a natural reaction or if it's a consequence of having PCOS. So I think my biggest struggle is understanding my body and really understanding what it's saying to me on a daily basis. So if I'm having a tummy ache, if I'm having a backache, is this related to PCOS, or is this just a natural take a pain pill or like go on my heating pad and I'll feel better? So I think what is the struggle is understanding what symptoms you have and how they're affecting you every day. And I think it also then trickles into the fact that we women that have PCOS struggle with our mental health on a day-to-day basis. And when I say that, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've been diagnosed with specific mental illnesses like depression and anxiety, but you have these key characteristics of those things that will be brought about depending on how you're feeling that day and what symptoms you're dealing with. Like I said, some things, if for instance you're dealing with body image issues, you might overthink everything you eat, and then you might get anxious based on what you're eating. So I think that is definitely my biggest struggle, and definitely trying to manage that and understand my body and give my body what it needs and give my mind what it needs to be healthy physically and mentally. Mental health is one of those topics that's pretty tricky. So it's very hard, like I've said, to pinpoint what exactly is related to my PCOS. So I've always seen mental and emotional health as something that's pretty important, but I've also realized the effects that PCOS has on me and how I've made that affect then my mental health. So the biggest thing, like I said, is definitely an anxious mind. You know, when you're dealing with illness every day, you tend to overthink everything. So in my life, I think that I have put everything in a box in terms of what is a pro and what is a con and how will it affect me. And sometimes it works well, and sometimes I've learned the best tools for myself, but then other times I've found myself very anxious. And that in turn, if you look into anxiety, anxiety can sometimes lead you into depression, because very often when you're anxious, you feel as though you can't fulfill or live your best life, and that leads you into some depressive states. So I think that I myself have had to take a step back and understand myself and how best to take care of myself. And through that, I've learned that it's pretty important to prioritize your mental health. So if you know what you need to do to keep that in check, or if you need to talk to somebody, I've learned different phases of my life what I need to do in terms of just keeping myself as a priority. And I definitely think that is something that we're learning every day. Some factors that we face when we have PCOS might seem like they're front-facing, meaning that they might not be related. They might be related to what's going on in the world, but then you have to take a step back. And, you know, I've learned about myself more when I've stopped in those moments and I've been able to really reflect and understand myself. I do have a lot of friends and family that have been diagnosed. Some of those relationships existed beforehand, and some of them were curated because we had Pcos in common. So it was important for me to talk to people about what I was going through, and then you'd find mutual connections and people who could also, you know, follow you in that journey and talk to you about what they're going through as well. When I was first diagnosed, I was definitely put on birth control and then just given a diet and exercise plan. So that's what I did for a few years. And the only thing that I regulated was my cycle. And so while that was good for a time, I was still experiencing so many other symptoms. I tried a couple natural methods, just a lot of B12 pills and different forms of vitamins, and I think that helped in terms of my energy levels, and I think vitamins are good regardless. But it wasn't until recently I started taking metformin that I saw the bigger issues that I was facing. Those got treated very well. However, that's something that I still struggle with on a day-to-day in terms of if I take it all the time, and how do I take care of my body while being on metformin. When it comes to getting information for PCOS, you have to grab at every angle. So whether that is going to your doctors, whether that is talking to your friends, researching on the internet, and then also just listening to your body. So I haven't gotten my bulk of information from any one place. I've definitely drawn from all those lines of communication because I think that's helped me understand it more. While I understand that there's information out there, I feel like we're all learning together. So I've definitely gone to different doctors and different friends and different sources to be able to put everything together and understand my journey specifically. The most surprising fact I've learned about PCOS is the effect on memory loss. So I've always struggled with remembering things short-term and long-term. I always will tell people that I don't remember their faces or I don't remember a specific memory. And I had a lot of guilt for that because I didn't want people to feel like I was minimizing my relationship with them or the specific memory with them. And it wasn't until the past 2 or so years that I started to understand that memory loss was an effect of Pcos. And it took a lot of training for me to then start writing down everything, trying to make that effort to remember things. But that is definitely by far the most surprising thing I've learned. And because it's been recently and it's been affecting my life for so long, it's definitely one of those things that stand out to me. Currently, I am on metformin to regulate my Pcos. I also have taken some time during quarantine and just dedicated that time to look at what I'm eating and carve out time in my day to also work out. And so that's been super important to me. I've also taken B12 shots every few months because that has given me an extra boost of energy compared to taking the daily pills. And so altogether, those have been the things that I've been working on over the past year and a half to regulate my Pcos. I would tell you guys to take a little breather and stop worrying as much. This is definitely something that you're going to want to learn a lot about, and you're going to want to understand what's going on, but it's also a personal journey. So no matter what other people are telling you, you need to trust your body and trust yourself and what's happening internally, and just take note of that and take note of what makes you feel good. And don't beat up yourself. Like, have that burger, whatever makes you feel good in the moment, trust yourself to have that. And don't also look at other people's journey. Like I said, this is a personal journey. We all are experiencing different symptoms, so what works for somebody may not work for you. And it's definitely a trial run, start again. I mean, I've had it for 10 years, and it's just over the past year and a half, I'm doing a different treatment that's working for me. So I've definitely learned, and that has taken some self-reflection, some self-love. It's hard when you feel like your body isn't responding to what you're putting into it and the work you're putting into it. But one day you guys will align and you'll feel good. You'll have those good days and they'll be worth it. So I just tell you guys to keep pushing and to, throughout everything, just love yourself.